welcome. So we really want to welcome today Liz Horvath, who's the Senior Advisor on Psychological Health and Safety from Opening Minds, which is a program of the Mental Health Commission of Canada. Liz is on a mission to make work a great part of life for as many people as possible, an accomplished health and safety professional and international speaker. She's well known for her empathy and interpersonal skills combined with her expertise in health and safety, change management, and leadership. She has specialized in psychological health and safety for the past 15 years and currently leads the Client Services Program for Opening Minds. And her former experience includes leading the development of several groundbreaking health and safety standards, including the National Standard for Psychological Health and Safety in the Workplace. And she also led a team of consultants in the occupational health and safety legal practice of Gowlings, which specialized in providing training, consulting, and legal services to clients in all sectors throughout Canada, and also worked for 10 years as a health and safety professional in the manufacturing sector. So really excited to hear about your psychological assessment tool.
Great. Thank you, Valerie. Can you see my slides okay?
Yep, it looks good.
Okay. And thank you, Peter. What a wonderful presentation. I was taking some notes there and look forward to connecting with you after today as well. There was just so much that resonated, and I mean, Opening Minds were really focused on evidence-based services and resources and training. So that all resonated with me. And yes, just to let people know as well, the National Standard of Canada is currently under revision. I'm one of the members on the technical committee, so if you have any questions about that, you can feel free to let me know as well. And we will be expecting it to go out for public review later this year, probably around October, and you'll have an opportunity to provide input to that. And we expect the new version to be out next year. And the new version, you'll be happy to hear, will have more practical guidance in it, and will be, we're hoping that it's going to be very readable and highly used. So excellent. So yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about measuring improvement for a healthy workplace and the tools that the tool and the program that we've developed here at Opening Minds at the Mental Health Commission of Canada, and really appreciate the opportunity to be able to share this with you. So let's start out with a little bit of information here. We know from research that approximately 68% of employed Canadians actually consider their workplace psychologically safe. That also means that there's 32% who don't, which is a pretty high percentage of people that don't consider their workplace psychologically safe. So we know that we have work to do. 21.2% of Canadians reported experiencing high or very high levels of work-related stress. And 80% of people who were off work due to stress actually cited job demands and work environment as the primary causes for poor mental health. While we know that stress is cumulative, we bring our whole selves to work and our whole selves home. It's the work environment that seems to be a major issue here for 80% of the people who were off work. We also know that business leaders actually agree that psychological health and safety boosts business. 93% of those surveyed, and I'm giving you the links to the survey as well. 93% of these leaders from around the world agreed that psychological health and safety boosts business. 90% of them actually estimated that it would have an ROI, return on investment, of at least 6%. And in fact, 20% of those who responded to this survey said that they expected an ROI of more than 20%. The problem is that 60% of them actually lack trained people to address psychosocial risks at work, and they don't even know whether these people even exist. So what do we do about that? This is where Opening Minds is really trying to help with this area. We are a not-for-profit social enterprise that provides training and tools to talk about mental health, change negative attitudes, and reduce stigma related to mental health. Opening Minds is a division. We are the social enterprise division of the Mental Health Commission of Canada, and we are the largest systematic effort in Canadian history focused on stigma. And with that, we also provide our territorial acknowledgement. Opening Minds is headquartered on the unceded lands of the Anishinaabe Algonquin people. We have many employees all over Turtle Island, and we recognize that the care and nurturing of the land from First Nations, Inuit, and Northern peoples has allowed us to benefit from all the things that this land has to offer. We must now pay our respect in caring for the land and the generations that will come after us. In their honor. And I personally acknowledge that I live and work on the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nations and the Mississauga Chippewa Nations of the Williams Treaty. At Opening Minds, we have many workplace solutions. We offer the Working Mind training, the Inquiring Mind, which is a version of the Working Mind for youth. We also provide mental health first aid training, and we have a whole suite now of psychological health and safety training and resources, as well as Headstrong Summits, which is not a workplace solution, but it is these are summits for secondary school students and training basically for future leaders who will take up the reins in their workplaces. And so we are doing a lot. We have trained over 1 million people across Canada and also a bit beyond, and supported over 1,600 organizations, and we have more than 1,300 certified facilitators. So we do have a very strong impact throughout Canada. And the Mental Health Commission also commissioned the development of the National Standard of Canada for Psychological Health and Safety. I was the project manager on the development of that standard, so I know it in very, very detailed depth. And many people are familiar with the, pardon me, what they call the 13 psychosocial factors that are in the standard. You'll notice here that there's actually 14. The final one being other chronic stressors, and that is stressors that are identified by workers that may not fall within the other 13. So this is basically how people have come to talk with us about the standard and the psychosocial factors. Whenever I've asked people, are you familiar with the standard? Usually I get a response of, oh yeah, the 13 factors. So when I ask them about whether they are familiar with the whole standard and the management system, sometimes I'm met with questions like, what is a management system? And what do you mean there's more to the standard than just the psychosocial factors? So that's been an interesting conversation over the years. So one of the things that I wanted to share, what are some of the key questions that we have been asked when we're talking with people about the standard? Very often they come to us and they say, what do we need to do? We're a little bit confused on how to implement it. Where do we begin? There's a lot in here. Sometimes people open the standard and they feel that it's a daunting task for them to do. We're not exactly sure how to do this. How do we get senior leadership on board? Sometimes there are implementation teams or a certain person within an organization that is tasked with implementing mental health at work, but they don't necessarily have what they see as the senior leadership commitment that they need to actually put any resources towards it. And how do we get participation when it's not law? The national standard is a voluntary standard. So if it's not law, how do we get everyone in the workplace really committed and participating to this standard? And we are seeing more and more about psychological health and safety coming into law across Canada, but the standard itself is not law. And how do we measure our progress and impact? So there are organizations that are putting things in place, but they don't know how to measure what it is that they're doing and what impact they're making. So that's where we decided to put together a psychological health and safety training and assessment program. And what we focused on first wasn't the factors, not the 13 factors or 14 factors. Yes, that is very important. And as an occupational health and safety professional for the last 30 years, I can tell you prevention is where it's at. We want to, as Peter had mentioned, make sure that we are addressing those psychosocial factors in the most effective way in order to prevent harm to workers. But what we need to do about that isn't only doing a risk assessment and putting those controls in place. We have to make sure that we're addressing the full management system so that we have consistency, so that we have people who understand what it is that they're supposed to do, that roles are clear, that the processes are in place. Because you may have somebody in, you might have a great leader in place at one point in time, but if that person leaves the organization and another one comes in and you don't have things built into the management system, those things can be lost. So that's where the management system is so vitally important. And after helping organizations with implementation of management systems for decades, I consider myself a management systems geek. So key elements of a management system, I'm not going to go through every single point on here, but there's things like the policy statement. That's where it starts. You've got the planning processes, written roles, responsibilities, and authorities, engagement plan for participation of workers. These are so important. As Peter mentioned, management commitment and worker engagement, those are key. But how do you actually make sure that you've got a process in place that makes it happen? That's where the management system comes in. The processes for identifying hazards and risk assessment and implementing your controls. So there's a whole bunch of things. I've identified 18 overall things that are required in a management system. And so what we're looking at doing is taking the management systems that are in the standards into integration. And what that looks like is, you look at the management systems and we understand that it is a plan, do, check, act process, starting with commitment, leadership, and participation, going through that planning, implementation, evaluation and corrective action, and management review. And it is a continual improvement process. So it's something that can take a few years to put into place, but it's not expected that everything is in place the first go around. You're going to continually improve. But what we looked at doing was how do we answer those questions for people about, well, where do we start and where does it show up and how do we know that what we're putting in place is actually making a difference? So we looked at both the national standard and the international standard, ISO 45003. We took what the requirements were from both of those standards, and we identified where do these show up within a workplace. And we identified 10 key areas that are common to all workplaces where you would see psychological health and safety show up. That's within the honeycomb here that you see. So areas like, do you have a policy and strategy? How are you managing ability, or what some people call disability? Do you have awareness, communication, and training? Equity, diversity, and inclusion is a key part of it. The whole worker life cycle, from the time you're recruiting right through the time that you're offboarding someone. The whole risk assessment area, managing change, leadership development, and emergency preparedness and response. And we ran all the requirements for the Plan, Do, Check, Act process through these 10 areas. And what we did was we created an integration framework where we identified where psychological health and safety shows up throughout each one of these areas. And then we built it into an assessment tool. So in order to help people understand that assessment tool and understand not only the assessment tool, but the bridge between mental health at work, what's required in the standards, and what psychological health and safety actually looks like and how it's integrated in the workplace, we developed a suite of courses. One is the E-course for people leaders. That's a quick one for anyone who is leading people. And then the suite of courses for the integration starts with an introduction to psychological health and safety. That makes sure that people have a good understanding of what psychological health and safety actually is. Then how does it get integrated within the workplace? And then for people who are going to use the assessment tool, they need to become qualified assessors. So we have a program for that. The development of the program for the assessors, this whole thing was funded in part by the Government of Canada's Strategic Engagement and Research program. And that was a 3-year funding that we have just come to the end of. So we're happy to be launching this program in full. The assessment tool itself was developed in partnership with AuditSoft. So we have a software that the tool is built into. And this tool assesses the strengths of an organization. It assesses the strengths and any gaps. So we're looking for the strengths in these structures and processes for managing work in a psychologically healthy and safe manner. It does verify evidence through a standard process. So it's not just a survey. This is a process where we look at documentation, we do interviews with a representative sample of employees throughout the organization and at different levels, and there's a few observations that are also required. It does provide a report and a customizable action plan to the organization that can help them with prioritizing and figuring out what do we do next. It really helps them to see all the recommendations in one place and saves them the time and effort of taking the report and then putting together that action plan. It aligns with the national standard and the international standard, so we're able to show where the conformance is. And the assessments are conducted by qualified assessors. And this is something that is very important because doing a psychological health and safety assessment really involves digging into the documentation, the records, talking with people, and really seeing, is psychological health and safety alive in those areas of the management system that can actually support the positive management and reduction of harm and the improvement of workplace conditions, so that everyone in the workplace is actually, it becomes part of how the work is being done, no matter, you know, whether it's an area of, you know, are mental health supports in place, are people actually using them, how are we managing heavy workloads, how are we managing work that might be high stress. The management system helps with that. So the assessments do need to be conducted by qualified assessors. And one of the things that we found when we were going through doing our very first assessments was that in doing the interviews, people would really get into some very candid and deep stuff. And so the assessors also need to be able to be trained so that they understand how to create a psychologically safe environment for those interviews, protect confidential and private information, and be able to report on the findings, as well as protecting their own psychological health and safety while they are going through the whole process of the assessment. There's two different assessment types. So there's internal. So this would be assessments that are conducted by an internal employee who has been trained and qualified as an assessor and has access to the AuditSoft tool that we have worked with AuditSoft to develop. And so they would do an internal assessment and provide it to their own employer. If an employer doesn't have an internal person or team that they want to train and qualify for this, then they can engage with an external assessor through Opening Minds, and we can connect them with a trained and qualified external assessor. And the assessor qualifications are on 3 different levels. So we have the assessor in training, where they're learning all of how to do the assessment. They are going through the course. It's a pretty intensive course, and they're learning hands-on how to use the assessment tool. They're also learning how to do those interviews. They're learning about how to protect that confidential information and how to deal with something that might come up where they think, oh, there's something urgent here that I need to contact the organization to make sure that this gets dealt with right away. So, so the assessors in training, they go through that training program. There's an exam that they have to write. And once they finish that successfully, they are they have provisional qualification. This allows them to do their first assessment, which is their qualifying assessment for an organization. They do that with the support of the Opening Minds team to make sure that the assessment itself has met quality review requirements. And once we're satisfied that it's met the requirements, then they can produce the report using the audit soft tool and the action plan. And that is done at the click of a button. So it does make it a lot easier for the assessor. They don't have to, type out a Word document with the report. It's all contained within the tool. And then once they've completed that first assessment, they are fully qualified and able to do additional assessments. So where are we at in that process? We have just completed the pilots. We have been working on this for the last 3 years. We have completed the pilots. The research, the independent research report is being finalized and will be available. We have trained 258 people in the intro course. 87 people have gone through the integration course, which includes assessors as well as implementation teams within the workplace, within the workplaces that were being assessed so that they could get ready for the assessment. And we've trained 27 assessors, both internal assessors and external. The program itself launched September 2024. And we are in the process of developing a light version of the program for small businesses and businesses that should not say, a light version of the program for small businesses and businesses that may have limited resources. So what I want to finish with is just that, we know that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. This is a statement that I always come back to. After many years in occupational health and safety, I have seen too many situations where organizations are acting reactively, and then afterwards, somehow they come up with the money to be able to make the changes that they need to make. So just focus on prevention, and that focus on prevention means putting the right systems in place to make sure that the hazards can actually be addressed effectively, and that you're measuring and monitoring and seeing progress and closing the gaps. So that's where our focus is. I'm happy to provide more information about the tool itself. I'm delighted that I'm absolutely delighted that Katrina Birch is here speaking as well. She's one of our trained assessors, so wonderful that the whole flow of this day is really exciting to me. And I apologize that I do have to leave at 11:30, but I do have a few minutes for some questions. And I want to just end with, this is my mission in life. Let's make work a great part of life. I've given you my email. You can contact us through the solutions email as well. Visit us at our website. Follow us on LinkedIn. We are delighted to be part of this, and very happy to answer any questions that you might have. Even though I can't stay until the end, I'm happy to take questions that Valerie might send to me to share. That Valerie might send to me. I was just quitting sharing there and I said share. And I'll be happy to answer the questions following today. So thank you.
Thanks, Liz, and thanks for all your amazing work in putting this structure together, the toolkit and the piloting and the verifying and all that. It is a life's work, I think, and I'm interested in the uptake. We don't have any questions right now, but I'm interested, I guess, in you're promoting it, I guess, are you promoting it in the context of an added dimension to people's existing health and safety systems and trying to supplement and grow and expand, but also the interconnectedness or the integration because of the physical harm aspects that go along with psychological health and safety, as well as the mental injury prevention? Do you have any?
Absolutely. I mean, it really is. When we look at psychological health and safety, it is the foundation for a healthy workplace, right? So There are definite connections, as Peter pointed out, between psychological health and safety and physical health and safety, and between well-being. So we are promoting it as part of an integrated management system. So we're not saying it's a separate management system. It is, how do you actually integrate psychological health and safety into the way that work is done so that people are healthy, safe, and productive? So it is that integration, but we do it through looking at the whole aspect of the management system, but within those key areas under people, leadership, and risk. And then what was the second part of what you had said?
Well, just related to that in terms of the integration, because of the recognizing that psychological health and safety impacts physical well-being as well as mental well-being. So
yeah. So yes, we are. I mean, we haven't promoted it widely yet because we were just in the pilot phase. But now that we are done, we will be starting to promote it more actively. And certainly we, as we are developing the light version as well, we'll be looking for input to that as well. So we'll be piloting the light version for small businesses. So looking forward to that. And we also help organizations with, trying to get things in place so that they understand, what is it? How do I actually demonstrate that I'm doing this? Because that really is one of the most important things in making sure that that employees can see visible demonstration of management's commitment to psychological health and safety. Is not just getting up there and saying we're committed to psychological health and safety. It's like, what are you actually doing? So being able to help them to show and demonstrate what they're doing is key. And some of the feedback that we heard from the organizational participants was that they found it extremely valuable for benchmarking to see where their strengths and gaps were, that they found it helpful for determining their actions going forward. It is a very comprehensive and in-depth assessment. So this is not a high level, do you have this in place? Do you have that in place? It is in depth. So we're really getting down to how well is it integrated. And when we're looking at the hazard identification and risk assessment process, I mean, that's where we've had the most questions leading into this. So, how do we assess the psychosocial factors? Well, first of all, you have to have a hazard assessment, a hazard identification and risk assessment program. You probably already have that for occupational health and safety. You build this into it. It's not separate. You build it into it, right? And so that's one of the things that we're looking for there.
Great. Thanks. There's a couple of questions in the chat. One of them is, how secure is the information provided in terms of the audit soft? So the auditor uses this audit soft tool, and how is data privacy protected is the question.
Yeah. So I don't have the technical details on the tip of my tongue, but we did, our IT department did work to make sure that we were, that AuditSoft is secure. AuditSoft has very high security. The data is completely protected. They actually do not see the data. They provide the tool, they provide the technical support, but they do not actually see the data itself. We are able to see the data, the raw data that's in the tool, to help to ensure that quality assurance is being met. So privacy, confidentiality, and things like that. So it's a Canadian tool. Everything is hosted right here in Canada. And the other thing is the employer gets the final report. They do not get access to the raw data. So only the final report.
And Lisa asked if the Ministry of Labour Training and Skills Development is promoting this in any way, but I don't know if you know the answer to that right now.
They haven't started promoting it yet, but we are in discussions with various partners.
Mhm.
And some of those partners will be the various provincial governments as well as the federal government. And we have been in collaboration also with safe work associations across the country, and League of Champions we have a partnership with. And yeah, so you'll be hearing more about this.
Great, thanks. And I think I did ask earlier whether there was some drive due to the legislation in Quebec, which we're actually going to talk about in 2 weeks on our sort of cross-country checkup,
Yeah.
rounding out the month. But I guess, are you finding, or I guess, has there been more uptake in Quebec, or have you, because of the legislation there, where people are meant to demonstrate that they're actively engaging in preventing mental injury and harm? Is that happening already? Do you see more there at all?
Not yet. We are seeking a partner in Quebec to deliver the program. It's going to be available in both English and French. So we do know that, I mean, the legislation has changed, and they do need to be doing this. But during the pilot phase, we did not get a partner in Quebec, so we are looking for a partner in Quebec. Probably for the light version, we should be able to get one, and looking forward to helping those organizations as well. Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you very much for taking the time to come today and share this with us. It's a different kind of assessment, but it's good to see all the different types of approaches, and that a workplace can take, and it seems like a very sophisticated one, and the rigor of the trained assessors and that kind of thing is it's interesting, and it's quite new to this space, I think. So that's exciting. Thanks
Yes.
very much.
Thank you, and I apologize that I do have to leave. So
Okay.
enjoy.
No problem.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Thanks very much.